When the 2025 season ended, a lot of people believed that was it for Kyle Tucker and the Chicago Cubs. However, Kyle Tucker's market is not what he or his team thought it would be. So the Chicago Cubs wait and see approach could actually end up paying dividends for a reunion. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mike Jones, back again with another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. Hey, listen, I appreciate each and every last one of you guys that have been tuning into these videos. Thank you all so much. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And hey, if you're new to the channel, welcome. We're a community of Chicago Cub fans that love to get on here and talk about our team, whether that be good or whether that be bad and everything in between. We are Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs, and the official voice of the Chicago Cub fan lives here. So make sure that you guys get in the comment section below and make sure you guys comment. Tell me your thoughts on the video today. Now, with that being said, y'all, listen, when Chicago Cubs swung a huge trade for Kyle Tucker last winter, everybody pretty much assumed that it would be a one-year rental deal. Everybody pretty much assumed at the end of 2025, when the Cubs fell short against the Brewers in the division series, that, hey, Kyle Tucker is all but gone, right? Already pretty much had his bags packed, was ready to go, either head off to the Dodgers or head off to the Blue Jays, wherever he was figuring to go, right? Well, as it should turn out, Kyle Tucker's free agency attraction is not what he thought it would be. Kyle Tucker is finding himself in between a rock and a hard place with this team. Now, everybody has pretty much assumed at first that it was going to be the Dodgers. Then it went from, okay, he's going to be a Dodger to then, hey, he's going to be a Blue Jay, right? Well, guys, it's after Christmas. It's December 28th, and Kyle Tucker has not been signed yet by anybody. Now, the rumors out there is Kyle Tucker and his team were seeking a 10-year, $400 million deal. Now, albeit if the Dodgers didn't have Freddie Freeman, didn't have Mookie Betts, didn't have Yamamoto, didn't have Roki Sasaki, didn't have, obviously, Shohei Ohtani, they might be inclined to give Kyle Tucker a deal like that. Hey, and even the Blue Jays, maybe the Blue Jays would have been inclined to give him a deal like that had they not just signed had they not just signed, I forget his name, I'm blanking on his name right now, but had they not just signed that big, huge contract for, and it's going to come to me in a minute. Anyways, they just signed their superstar to a big deal also. So when you look at this and you say to yourself, you see these big contracts being done and being made, you obviously understand that these teams are a lot less likely to spend this money. You guys got to remember, the Dodgers are on the hook for over $1 billion in deferment payments for all of the money that they have to pay to Freddie Freeman, to Shohei Ohtani, to Yamamoto, to Mookie Betts, to all those guys. So you realize they're not in a position to do another long-term deal. I mean, obviously, okay, it's the Dodgers. If they want to, they could. They absolutely could. But why would they? They're back-to-back world champions. Kyle Tucker doesn't tip the ball anymore in their favor. All it does is give more people a reason to bitch and complain about how the Dodgers run their organization. So, to me, the Dodgers are not inclined to give Kyle Tucker that money. The Blue Jays, all right, they made it to the World Series last year, but the Yankees are coming. I still believe in the Yankees, and I think that that they are going to they're going to make some adjustments, and I do believe the Yankees will be back there. And then you also got to look at Boston. Boston is really coming. Boston is really figuring things out. Now, obviously, you feel a lot better had they re-signed Bregman or something like that. But again, they did end up trading for Wilson Contreras, and they do have him now as their first baseman on the team. So Boston is also another team to watch out for. So you look at this and you say to yourself, what do the Chicago Cubs and Kyle Tucker have in common right now? Well, the Chicago Cubs need a superstar bat, right? And Kyle Tucker needs a home right now. He needs a place to go. He needs a place where he can thrive. Now, I do personally believe that Kyle Tucker's issues came a lot from Vladdy Jr. Oh my goodness. I knew that was going to haunt me if I didn't get his name right, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure you guys by now, if you're still watching the video, have commented and said Vlad Guerrero Jr. Vladdy Jr. is the who the Toronto Blue Jays paid a lot of money to. They signed their life away to him. So I don't know if they're inclined to sign their life away to two superstars like that, and the other being Kyle Tucker. They may, but they may not. But Kyle Tucker is in need of a home, and the Chicago Cubs are in need of a big bat in the middle of that batting order. And it just fits. It worked last year. When Kyle Tucker was healthy, the Chicago Cubs were damn near unbeatable. And this is with Dansby Swanson slumping. This is with Miguel Amaya going down with injury. This is with Justin Steele going down with injury. This is with all of these issues. The Chicago Cubs still were the team to beat for 2 months of baseball. And so when you look at that, you say to yourself, the Chicago Cubs and Kyle Tucker, if they could figure out a deal, it could be lucrative for both teams. But what does a deal realistically look like if the Chicago Cubs would bring back Kyle Tucker? So again, this came from Paul Hembo from ESPN, who has named the potential landing spots for Kyle Tucker, and he did list the Cubs as one of those landing spots for Kyle Tucker. So listen, there's two different ways you can do a deal here with Kyle Tucker, right? The first one involves Tucker signing a 1+1 deal, where the star outfielder would sign a 2-year contract with a player option for 2027. The deal would offer Tucker $104 million in total, which would pay him $52 million annually. It would also make the former first-round pick the second highest paid player in baseball from an AAV perspective, and would make sense for Tucker if he can't land that long-term $400 million pact he keeps seeking out. Again, he has opt-outs, and the Cubs probably would throw in an opt-out too if Tucker couldn't stay healthy. And they probably throw some incentives in there for him if he did stay healthy, and let's say he was an all-star or he became an MVP. Then you look at the second setup. The second setup would consist of Tucker inking a 2+2 deal. So it would be a 4-year, $172 million contract with a player option after the second season, and would feature $43 million in average annual value. So given that the Cubs were absolutely serious contenders with Tucker this past season, they should absolutely pursue a reunion with the 29-year-old if this situation arises. Now, I'm not sure, and Jed will never tell us exactly what his first initial offer was to Tucker outside of obviously his deal with, where we had to give him the qualifying offer. We will never know what the deal is for Kyle Tucker until he signs. If he signs, we'll find out what the deal was. But if he signs with somebody else, then we'll never know what Jed actually offered him. But both of these deals really do fit what the Chicago Cubs brass right now are trying to do. They want to remain competitive and see if they can win a World Series while also still building up the future in Owen Casey and Miguel Amaya and PCA and guys like that. They want those guys to thrive. I still believe that if you do a deal like this, if you do the first contract out of the two, I like the first deal better, a 1+1, giving him that player option so he can go back into free agency. And at the end of next season, obviously, I think there'll be a lockout, so I doubt he plays. I doubt anybody plays. But at the same time, this also would allow for the Chicago Cubs to get right back into free agency next year and make their team better. Also, not to mention for Tucker, it could be looked at as a prove-it year. You guys have to understand, part of the reason why Kyle Tucker does not have that $400 million deal on the table right now is A, teams are cheap. B, Kyle Tucker has an injury history. He has a hard time staying healthy. He got banged up last year with the Cubs, and that's when we went on a slump. And he never recouped from that. He never recouped from the injury against the injury he had when he was sliding into second base. He started holding the bat different. He tried trying to overcompensate for his swing. He could not hit home runs anymore. He lost his home run ability. Now, again, I do believe these are all things with some surgery and with health and with time of rest. I think he'll get all that stuff back. He's a damn good baseball player. Very good in right field. Very good for this team. He fits with this team. But the Cubs ain't finna offer him $400 million for 10 years, and they're not going to defer any payments. So since we understand that and we know that, we realize here that the Chicago Cubs and Kyle Tucker himself are both at an impasse. Kyle Tucker wants to be a part of somebody's team, and he wants to be a part of a good team. He does not want to go sign a $400 million team, a $400 million deal with a team that isn't competing. He's in his prime right now at 29. He's got probably another 5 to 6 years in his prime. And Kyle Tucker should be competing for World Series in that time. And I think that if he decide to join the Chicago Cubs, he will be. I do think he will have an opportunity to vie for a World Series with this team, especially with the way it's presently set up. Another thought, though, that I had, if the Chicago Cubs should decide to sign Kyle Tucker, and let's say this time they do the 4-year deal, the 2+2, would that make Seiya Suzuki a lot more expendable? And here's my thought process behind that. If you sign Kyle Tucker to that deal, you can't sign another free agent. So also, if you're going to try to bolster your starting line, your starting rotation, then you're going to have to do it through trade. And I think a lot of teams would love to have somebody like Seiya Suzuki on their squad. So maybe you keep a Matt Shaw for his defense, and you turn around and make Moises Ballesteros your DH, allow him and Owen Casey to go backwards and forwards on DHing. You have Kyle Tucker in right field. You trade Seiya Suzuki. I think that a deal, signing Kyle Tucker to any type of deal that's anything over 2 years, makes Seiya Suzuki expendable here in the near future, especially with no guarantee that he's going to re-sign back with you once his contract ends. You could get a very nice haul for, let's say, a Seiya Suzuki, a Kevin Alcantara, and maybe a prospect. That trade in itself is enough to land you a top starting pitcher in the MLB. So we'll see. But I want to know you guys' thoughts. Do you guys want a reunion with Kyle Tucker? Or are you guys over the Kyle Tucker experience? You've had enough. You would like to see the Cubs go after somebody like Alex Bregman or something like that. Are you guys over the Kyle Tucker experience? Are you just hoping that he just goes away and signs with somebody else? These are all things that are still on the table and we have to think about. So I want you guys to think real hard. Comment below your thoughts on what I had to say here today. And listen, I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. Once again, this is your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. When news break, we will drop a new episode for you. And of course, we'll have our weekly episodes coming up. So make sure you guys subscribe so that you don't miss any of it. Until next time, go Cubs, go.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the number one spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.